Dear members of Section Britannia, my name is Michel Mehle. I usually produce podcasts for the Austrian Alpine Club in Innsbruck, which, judging by my accent, is probably not too hard to guess. Last year, I had the pleasure of visiting Section Britannia at your AGM in Wales. And during my visit, I produced a podcast to tell people back home about your support for the Austrian Alpine Club, especially through the HUD Fund. But I also wanted to give members in Austria a sense of who the people of Section Britannia are, and what makes a section such a great part of our club and our Alps. As the podcast is mostly in German, the committee kindly asked me to prepare an English version, which I am delighted to share with you now. I hope you enjoyed a small portrait of your section. Thank you once again for the wonderful time I spent with you, and I hope to see you all again soon. Michel. A bar in North Wales, Great Britain. It's mid-morning and there's already a bustle of activity. Nothing too unusual for a British pub. What is unusual, however, is that instead of a pint, people are holding hiking poles and, clad in outdoor jackets, poring over topographical maps.
Right. So, morning, welcome to Place Brennan. I'm Carl. The plan then for today...
The little bar at Place Brennan, a Welsh sports centre, is today's starting point for a hike by the Austrian Alpine Club, specifically by the Section Britannia, a section based entirely in the United Kingdom. Never heard of them? You really should, because this section is vital for quite some huts in the Austrian Alps. The Franz Fischer hut in Salzburg, the Salm hut in Carinthia, or the Innsbruck hut might not exist as they do today if it weren't for the Section Britannia. Taking inflation into account, members have donated over €1 million to alpine infrastructure in Austria since the 1970s, in addition to the regular membership fees, into a dedicated account to support Austrian sections in maintaining their huts. Who does something like that? And especially from more than 1,000 kilometers away. Welcome to the Basecamp podcast of the Austrian Alpine Club. My name is Michel Mehle. The Alps are bigger than we sometimes think. For this episode, I've been looking into just how big. The Alpine Club has members all over the world, but only 2 sections outside Austria: Flanders in Belgium and Britannia in the United Kingdom. I took the train to Wales on the west coast of the UK to visit Section Britannia. And I'd like to take you with me to discover a part of the Alps most of us have probably never seen like this before.
So this village, Capel Curig, is the wettest place in Wales. So it's not long before the
I read it was the wettest place in the UK.
in the world.
The small village of Capel Curig in Wales, which will serve as our base camp for the next 4 days, is considered the rainiest place in Great Britain, and therefore probably in the whole world. It's the annual gathering of Section Britannia in the heart of Snowdonia National Park, now better known as Reri. The Welsh term means highlands, and that sums it up pretty well. Low, hardy shrubs blanket boggy meadows between rugged mountains of volcanic rock and slate. The walks follow old stone walls and small streams through valleys, passing moss-covered trees and picturesque villages. This place has everything you need for a hike. That is, maybe everything apart from huts.
Yeah, well, the huts, I think, have always been central, part of the philosophy of the Section Britannia. I mean, it was originally Section England, of course.
Bright-eyed and sunny-natured Janet Britnell is joining me on my first hike. I'm not allowed to speak about her true age here, but it's been a good 40 years since she first spent the night in the mountain hut. That was in the Hohe Tauern National Park. She remembers the curd cheesecake at the Sudetendeutsche hut and being told off for being a little too quick along the narrow ridge between the Kleinglockner and the Großglockner.
I got told off for running across.
Back in Britain, where Janet lives, you'll find hardly any mountain huts. The philosophy here is to interfere as little as possible with nature. On my hikes in Wales, I don't see any trail signs or waymarkers. And if I fancy a hot soup after a day in the hills, I might have to pop into the nearest village's pub, which is totally fine, of course. But the experience of spending the night in the middle of the mountains, when the whole world reduces itself to a small shelter beneath a starry sky, that's an experience many people have for the first time in Austria.
You know, people go to the Alps and they realise that, I mean, how important the huts are for getting around in the Alps. You don't have to come back to the valley all the time. You can stay up at 3,000 feet, and it's almost like being in a small hotel, isn't it? Apart from the fact that you have to sleep in a Matratzenlager.
From that experience came the desire to return something. And that's how the Hut Fund came into being. The section Britannia's dedicated fund for supporting mountain huts, coordinated by Janet. For decades, members have donated money in addition to their membership fees, helping finance hut projects across Austria. A new combined heat and power plant for the Franzen hut in Tyrol, an extension to the Salm hut in Carinthia, or more recently, a new drinking water supply for the Leobner hut in Styria. Projects that, without Britannia's support, would have been much harder to realize.
We have put up a sign at 2 locations at the Leobner hut to thank the section Britannia. Many thanks to the Alpine Club Britannia for its generous financial support in establishing the drinking water supply at the Leobner hut, boundlessly connected through the love for our mountains. And it comes from the heart.
The snow-covered Leobner hut in the winter of 2025. Helmut Bader, vice chair of the section Leoben, shows me the sign in the entrance hall thanking Britannia for its support. Until recently, drinking water had to be filled into containers and brought up to the hut by cableway. A constant task for hutkeeper Hermann Leitner. Now, during the summer month, a new pumping system takes over. It's powered entirely by renewable energy, supplied with municipal water, and co-funded by the section Britannia's Hut Fund. The financial contribution makes a real difference. But for Claudia Schargal, chair of the section Leoben, the symbolic value matters just as much.
It's often seen in very practical terms. You have to raise the money, end of story. But it's not just about the money. It's also about the support, the interest. You can tell that it really matters to them. It's not just a donation and that's the end of it. Our hearts really mean something to them, and they are willing to go very far to support our projects.
Maintaining a hut can be quite a challenge for a section. After all, almost everyone involved does it voluntarily. If you've ever managed a renovation at home, you probably have an idea of how demanding that can be alongside everyday life. And now imagine all of it at 2,000 meters and above, without road access and with only a few months each year when construction is even possible. There are people in many sections who would rather give up their huts altogether because the resources needed have simply become too great. And it is true every year. Alpine clubs in Austria do lose huts. Britannia does its share to support sections in need. But what started this connection in the first place?
Well, Apfelstrudel always.
Spätzle and what's that dish that's like pancake with the apple and...
Kaiserschmarrn.
Oh, yeah. Kaiserschmarrn. I just wish it wasn't so expensive in the huts.
Back in Wales, whenever I tell people I'm from Austria, I hear enthusiastic stories about pastries and local beer, about first nights in mountain huts, about friendships that have lasted a lifetime. People in Britain do have a connection to Austria through the Alpine Club. And to me, no one embodies that connection better than Alan Hartley.
Got married and he said, no, you should go to Austria. Austria is much nicer than Schweizer or Frankreich. Yeah. The huts are nice, it's comfortable, they are very nice tours. I asked where to go and he said you should go to the Stubaier Alpen.
I'm meeting Alan after my hike in the bar at Place Brennen. He's a former president of Britannia, author of 4 respected guidebooks to the Eastern Alps and approaching 60 years as a member of the Austrian Alpine Club. When he first discovered it, it couldn't have been more different from the exclusive British mountaineering clubs he already knew.
If you're interested in mountains, This club is totally inclusive. If you like flowers or you want to go walking, you want to climb or a hot tour or whatever, you just join. You pay your membership fee and you get all the benefits of being a member, a Mitglied of the Austrian Alpine Club. And that is absolutely brilliant.
At the age of 21, Alan traveled to Austria for the first time. On a friend's recommendation, he and his wife spent their honeymoon on the Stubai High Trail. The only German word he knew back then was beer. It was 1967, and the Second World War had ended barely 20 years ago.
It was very good, but because it's quite soon after the Zweite Krieg, there was a lot of suspicion. Why are you here? They didn't quite understand some of the Hutton words. But the one man who stood out for me was at the Sulzenauer Huts was Leo Schopf. He spoke a little bit of English and he said, "You're always welcome here."
In the years after the war, distrust was common in many places in Austria. But some people were ready to build something new. Leo Schopf, the hut keeper at the Sulzenau hut, was one of them. He welcomed Alan and his wife with open arms, something that Alan never forgot. Today, nearly 80 years old, Alan is sitting opposite me in the small Welsh pub, wearing the badges of his section, talking about Leo's family, memorable hut nights, and how deeply he misses his friend, who passed away a few years ago.
So these friendships go back all those years,
So
50, 60 years. It's very, very good. Yes.
The Second World War is also closely tied to the origins of the section Britannia. In the 1930s, two Austrian expats found themselves in England, Heinrich Kraus and Walter Ingham.
Yeah, well, Walter was, in Austrian German, you'd probably call him a bit of a Schlawiner. I mean, he was a very good businessman, but he was the complete opposite of my father. My father was more the dependable one, the steady, reliable one, whereas Walter was more of a bon vivant.
Christina Crowther is the daughter of Heinrich Kraus, the founder of Section Britannia. Her father met Walter Ingham in London during the 1930s. Heinrich, originally from Graz, had just taken a job with the Austrian Tourist Office in London. Walter, who had grown up in Vienna, wanted to establish a travel company specializing in ski holidays in Austria. Together, they seemed like the perfect team. History, however, had other plans. The Nazis seized power in Austria and started the Second World War. Walter joined the army. Heinrich refused to return to Austria and was temporarily interned.
But not for very long. And through his work before the war, he knew an Englishman who had grown up in Vienna, Walter Ingham. And after the war, Ingham was very keen to set up a travel company. He wanted to help get tourism in Austria back on its feet. He wanted to encourage people to travel to Austria again. So my father asked whether they shouldn't do it together. And that's how they ended up founding the company Ingham's.
They founded Ingham's, the travel company that still exists today. But business wasn't the only thing on their mind. They also wanted to help Austria recover after the war. It's said that Walter Ingham used his position as a mayor in the British Army to help the newly re-established Austrian Alpine Club regain huts that had been confiscated during the Nazi era. And Heinrich Kraus then brought the Alpenverein to Britain.
They decided to make a section Britannia of the Austrian Alpine Club. So that was 3 years after the end of the war.
In 1948, Heinrich Kraus and Walter Ingham founded what was then called the Section England, later renamed Britannia. In the years after the war, its members were allowed to take only limited amounts of money out of Britain. So instead, they would have carried blankets and other much-needed supplies to huts in Austria. A bond grew between the two countries, a bond that has lasted. Today, Britannia is the 9th largest section of the Austrian Alpine Club, with more than 21,000 members. They come not only from the United Kingdom, but from around the world, since an English-speaking section offers them a bridge to the Alps. It's almost as if, with every new member, the Alps reach a little further into the world. Beautiful as that sounds, the story isn't entirely positive.
And then you go to the Alps in the summer, go up to Mer de Glace in Chamonix or to some of the glaciers in Austria, and you just see the gashes that are left as a result of retreating glaciers. And that's such like a vivid reminder of like the challenge we're facing, why there's such an urgency to respond.
Tom Herbstein is one of Britannia's newer members. His first ski tour, his first Via Ferrata, his first hut-to-hut tour. He did it all with the club in Austria. But the beauty of the Alps also opened his eyes to the realities of climate change. Melting glaciers, thawing permafrost, and our own role in those changes.
You know, the existence of the Austrian Alpine Club in the UK is to, and historically certainly, to try and encourage people to go to the Alps. So we need to be able to get there, and we need to be able to get there in a way that means you can still actually have a holiday in the Alps. So obviously flying.
Alistair Hodges, whom we just heard, is part of Britannia's Young Climate Group together with Tom. The Austrian Alpine Club has committed to becoming climate neutral by 2033. By then, half of its huts are expected to meet a demanding environmental certification standard. And Britannia is asking itself similar questions, says climate group leader Tara O'Neill.
We're looking at making a sustainability fund and working on what the terms of that would be and what that might look like so people can apply for funding for sustainability type projects.
Much like the Hut Fund, the idea is to raise dedicated funds, but this time to support more sustainable travel or help offset emissions. In 2025, for example, the section supported the Woodland Trust, as well as Austria's national environmental umbrella organization. The dilemma, however, cannot be fully resolved. Anyone who visits the Alps contributes to changing them. That's something people in Britain struggle with just as much as we do in Austria. It's the final evening of the Britannia gathering in Wales. The club's holding a raffle. Of course, in the bar at Place Brennen. The winning numbers are read out in German. After all, it's the Austrian Alpine Club. But not everyone can keep up as easily.
I've got a horrible feeling that's mine.
To his shock, the first prize goes to Tim Morley, the club's current president, who accepts his fate with a slight embarrassed smile. A pair of gloves for the next ski tour in Austria. A place that feels remarkably close here. And perhaps that might be true of the Alps themselves. Perhaps they're bigger than we sometimes think. Because they're not only defined by places, but also by relationships.
3, 2, 1.